beautiful people. Welcome to A Better World with Adrienne. I am very excited today because today I am doing a collaboration, welcoming a guest onto the podcast, my dear, dear, dear soul family and friend, Lori Maddalene. So before we get into this episode, I want to share a reminder, an invitation for you. If you are interested in working with me, my main focus of summer 2024 is one-on-one mentorship and one-on-one apprenticeship. So mentorship covers the entire swath of your life as a spiritual creator, and apprenticeship is when I work with you one-on-one in study and mastery of a skill set. So this is either astrology or becoming certified in cosmic cellular breathwork. So I just wanted to make sure you had that information, that invitation before we dive into today's episode. If you are interested in either of these, go to the link in the show notes and apply. I cannot wait to receive the applications and learn about you, learn about what you care about, learn about your goals, what your vision is and your mission is for a better world. And then I will be in touch. So wanted to share that reminder before we fully dive into today's episode. So today's episode is with my dear, dear, dear friend, Lori. I have known Lori for over 4 years at this point. I met her online during the pandemic and we bonded over astrology. I was living in Chicago at the time. She was living in Melbourne, Australia at the time. And my relationship with Lori has taught me so much about what it really means to be a friend, what it really means to fully see someone, fully click in with someone. And we go so far and so wide in this conversation. We talk about friendship, we talk about astrology as literally a authority of living your life by. And we also go really deep into the topic of what it's like to move across the globe, because we'll get into the logistics of it, but this is something Lori and I both did. And it was a big deal for both of us. So without further ado, enjoy the conversation with Lori and I. And yeah, and we are excited to share this with you. Aloha, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of A Better World with Adrienne. This is your unrestricted vocal channel where we dive deep, where we can talk about things that we really can't talk about other places online. We get to be off a screen and we just get to go to the core of things. Today, I am so excited to welcome my beautiful friend, Lori Mitchell, to the podcast. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for today's chat. It's going to be so good.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here as well. I've really been, this podcast is called A Better World with Adrienne, and the whole lens is like giving people tools, insights, like spiritual downloads. I'm teaching my frameworks, all of this in the service of a better world. And this idea that like when we each live our dream life, we create a tapestry of a dream world. Something that I've come to again and again and again is relationships like ours, friendships like ours are part of a better world. And I know there's so many people out there, like spiritual people that don't have soul friendship, that are like in their spiritual path, like literally saying what the fuck all day, every day, because, of the truth of things that happen. So I'm excited to talk about soul friendship. I'm excited to talk about magic and just let this be birthed through us.
I love that. You're touching on so many beautiful points there because you're talking, you know who you're talking to, your little Pisces. So you mentioned magic, dream, better world. Like, I'm here. I'm ready.
Yes. So you all know what we do here. Let us call upon the altar. One of the reasons why the world is in the state it's in is because we stopped saying thank you. We stopped making offerings. We stopped having altars. So on the altar is thank you in advance to spirit. Thank you in advance for this opportunity to serve, to channel, to connect, to grow, to create. We have a heart stone that I was guided to here on Maui. And this is lava stone. And it's sharing the message that a diamond is a rock that did well under pressure. And lava can feel really, really, really hot, but it makes new earth. That's on the altar.
That is beautiful. Ah, every time that you speak, it's very poetic. And I'm just in awe of you.
It's my Venus conjunct Mercury.
It's just beautiful and poetic.
We have a white rose on the altar representing purification, the angelic realm, the divine feminine. We have a white unscented candle burning, calling in all healed ancestors, healed guides, protecting this space for truth. And we have rose petals covering my whole entire computer, blessing the space with beauty, with the portal that this is. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Spirit. And the final piece of the altar is our 3 deep breaths together. This connects our mind, body, and spirit. This sets this apart as not just a personal development podcast, but a cellular transmission. So no matter where you're tuning in from, you can close your eyes. If you're driving, maybe keep those open and just fully land. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. Shake out your arms, shake out your legs. Let every moment leading up to now go. Be here now. Inhale through the nose. Hold it at the top. Feel purple light cover your crown, your third eye, and blue light cover your ears. Opening your channel to new information and opening your ears to hear new truth. Exhale out the mouth. One last inhale through the nose. This time bringing forward a color, an intention, a feeling, a picture, a vision. The energy you are bringing to the space today. Keep holding it because you're strong and you can. Exhale out the mouth. And with that, fully arrived, we open our space.
That was beautiful. I haven't intentionally breathed like that in a while. So even after that first breath, I just felt like, okay, I'm here. So thank you for that.
Yeah. The breath is, this is what I say. And you know, I'm a breathwork facilitator. I do cosmic cellular breath work, which I'm so excited to lead my first certification. It's the pathway home. It's like no matter how far you've strayed, it will always lead you home.
Mm. It felt like that. It really did. So thank you.
Well, I'm so excited to just flow together today, and I really want to click back in. So I recorded an intro that everyone heard about, like who Lori is, like why she matters, why we're doing this conversation. I really want to touch into what we were talking about before we pressed record, because you asked me like, oh, how are you?
Mm.
And I was like, I'm good. And then it was like, pause. And I'm like, actually, like, I'm going through a lot right now. And you really dropped in with some wisdom. Would you share that wisdom?
Oh gosh, now you put me on the spot. What did I say? I remember showing my shirt. I remember that because I was very happy about the shirt.
Uh,
But there was a few things that I mentioned, the fact that you expressed to me that you were going through some things right now. And, there's a lot of times where there is ebbs and flows in life where there are going to be seasons of, joy and pleasure. And there's also going to be seasons of tough challenges. And, as we do, we always bring it back to astrology. And for us who really use it as a tool, I think it's always good to remind ourselves that it is a bit of our blueprint, and the fact that we we wouldn't be here going through the challenges that we do have if we weren't kind of ready for that, and ready to face it and move through it to learn from it. And for the few years that I've known you, you're someone who does go through a lot of death and rebirth, and you always come out stronger and more fierce and more brave on the other side every time. And your soul signed up for this kind of stuff. And it's just one of those things that I like to remind myself as well when times do get a little bit tough, of like, I've got this. This wouldn't present itself if I didn't know how to get through it. And it might not be conscious that we know, but in good time, you're able to connect the dots when you can actually look back and see just how far you've come.
yeah.
Mm.
And it's such a beautiful, I was like, yes, this is why I invited her on the podcast. This is why I want to have this conversation, because it is linking it back to astrology. And I was sharing my transits, like literally Pluto sitting on top of my Saturn. So, spoiler alert for anyone out there who has their Saturn in Aquarius, buckle up, babe, because our Saturn return was the cute, fun opening act. And then, Maui is my Pluto line. So it's literally death and rebirth, like vibes. Um, and for anybody who doesn't know, like Saturn is the planet of limitation, boundary, restriction, discipline, long term, and then Pluto's death and rebirth. So the planet of death is sitting on top of my planet of restriction right now.
But I think we can also spin it as well. It's like it's this beautiful like deconstruction of
Yeah.
the restrictions in your life. Like obviously it's tense and it's tough and it's not all cake and watermelon, but if we flip it on its head and we have to like, look at things with the positive, because if we, say what if, it goes bad, what if it goes good? Also have to entertain that thought. And I think, there's beauty in the deconstruction of certain structures and systems in place that are kind of keeping you held, and whether that's fears, limiting beliefs, anything like that. And I think it's really beautiful that it's almost like you're being like cracked open like an egg, so
Yeah.
everything can just pour out of you the way that you're supposed to be, and exude yourself, I guess, in this life.
Yeah. It's like seeing the tower moment and honoring it and being like, yes, I am going to dismantle this. And something that I come back to again and again and again, it's like this warrior energy is like, this challenge chose me. It's up to me to choose it back. This is my fucking destiny. We got a genocide on our hands. We got a revolution on our hands. Like I can do this. You know what I'm saying? Um, And one of the reasons why I'm able to do this is because of people like you in my life that can hold the space. And, not everybody will have a like soul friend that can speak astrology fluently with them. And so it's like so special. And also just there's a very unique essence that comes with a friend who's very, very spiritual, who can hold that, all the parts of you. And then especially like even when we haven't spoken for a while, like it's just like dropping in.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually, to me, that's a sign of a good friendship, is when you can, be like individually, like living your lives, going through what you need to go through, like day to day crap. And
Mhm.
then to be able to like come back at some point and basically pick up where you left off, but also like still kind of connect on that deep level. And I think it takes two very self-aware individuals to be able to do that. Because if we both didn't care, we wouldn't be here. So, or
Right.
if one of us didn't care, we wouldn't be here. So,
Right. Yeah. I've met a lot of people, new people since moving. And I said to somebody a couple of weeks ago, I was like, if you expect me to respond to text right away and you expect to see me all the time, this isn't gonna work. That's not how my friendships are. Like, like I'm out here like doing my thing, and like I obviously make plans with people, but it's this like embodiment of abundance, really, because it's like there's so much time for just me to be in my own process and be who I am and click in at the right time with zero obligation or pressure and just desire.
mm, yeah, that's beautiful. And I think also with the like, the fact, I just love that you touched on the point. You're like, if you're going to expect me to be a certain person, I'm not that person. And I think that's also just staying true to who you are. But I think also like on a friend level as well, it's like, it also gives you a chance to miss each other. And I think that is also a beautiful thing to have, whether it's like relationships or friendships, any kind of like connection. Because if you're in each other's pockets every 2 seconds, like texting, it gets boring, it gets stale, it gets whatever. So I think you need some time to live your lives, come back. Like, and that doesn't have to be like take 6 months off. I'm not saying that. It's just more like you don't have to be someone who constantly responds like, is that everyone's beck and call? Like it's also just a respect that you have for yourself and boundaries that you're not going to be chained to like a communication device of some sort, that we can easily do in this day and age.
Well, yeah, and I talk about that a lot, is like the phone and social media is designed to keep you scrolling, keep you distracted, keep you disconnected from your soul, mindlessly consuming in chronic fight or flight. It's leveraged against all of us. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
So I would love to hear you riff on what soul friendship means to you and this really unique blend of spirituality and ambition.
Ooh, I love that. Because I think when you touch on the ambition part, like the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, it kind of encompasses everything, but a soul friend to me is someone who, I can be my authentic self with without judgment. And I think when it comes to my ambitions or my friends' ambitions, there's a level of mutuality and respect and being each other's cheerleader. So there's no animosity, there's no jealousy, there's no uh, desire to outdo the other person. It's plain and simple recognizing and just accepting and acknowledging the other person where they're at, regardless of whether it's a good day, it's a bad day. And something that comes into effect is like just holding space for each other. And I think when you get that one moment of being able to hold space for each other at just and to be vulnerable, it allows you to do that over and over again. And from the moment that we met, basically we were dropped into the room of just being like in a room to be vulnerable with each other. And I think it really set the tone for a friendship like ours to continuously do that, because from the get-go we felt safe. Well, at least I know I did. And I think we've talked about this before, like multiple times. So soul friendship to me is like being just accepted as you are, and being having the permission to be who you are at any given point. And you can show up as you are without judgment.
Yeah, as you are without judgment for sure. And so the way we met, we were in Natalia Benson's membership together, which was already like a sign that we had similar values because it was like magical women and money. So it was like spiritual people making money, which, can be, I would say the vast majority of spirituality actually throw shade at money. Like I was just at something last night on Maui, and they were like, "Oh, we're not about money here." And I was just like immediately put my earmuffs on because I was like, I don't want to be a part of this conversation. But it was that safety of like the shared values. So anybody that's listening, like if you're like, "Oh wow, that sounds really amazing," but I haven't found that. Like I think there can be a loneliness when you're a super spiritual person in relationships. And I definitely went through this and I'm still going through this a lot. One big example is like when I stopped drinking and I got sober, I immediately lost all those friends because it was like I realized, oh wait, the only thing I have in common with you is vodka. Like that's the only thing. Um, so if you're like, yeah, this sounds really amazing, but where are they? Like, follow what lights up your soul and they will be there. Get in rooms of people with shared values and they will be there. And then this piece that you're bringing through with vulnerability is so it's everything because you and I have celebrated together, we've cried together, like,
We've
and
done it
every
all.
way. I almost said we've never met in person, but we did meet in person last summer when you came to Chicago. But this is also the beauty of the age of Aquarius is like, which we won't really see in our lifetime, but we're going toward that direction. You are from Australia. I'm from Chicago. Like somehow we got connected and
Mhm.
now you're in London and I'm on Maui.
I mean, that's life, right? But I think also another thing that I will add to what you're saying is that kind of is a real good solid foundation of soul friendship. And it's something that we both did and still do very well. Is it's one thing to like meet each other. So we obviously were put in that room, we connected, we connected through Instagram. Awesome. But it is actually like the continuous effort that you put in after that is to check in, to see
Mhm.
how you're doing, to really like grow that friendship. Because it's one thing to just meet and connect and say, cool, we're connected on Instagram. But we actually made an effort to get to know each other and actually, you know, touch on those shared values and then realize, oh, we're literally into the same stuff. Like, this is so cool. Like, having someone else that you can be spiritually vulnerable with, like you said at the beginning of this episode, is so rare to come by. And that's why, to me, when I meet people who are like that, which again, very rare, I hold them close because, like, I
Mhm.
know I can be a lot of myself to you with, and a lot of people I can't show that side to because there is judgment that comes with it. And it's just a lot of headache that I just don't want to deal with. But, with you, I can show a side of myself that I don't actually like get to express as often as, you know, society, reality deems appropriate, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. It's that well, and then that just builds trust. It's just like anything, any relationship in life. It's like, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your vision, your relationship with, your romantic partner. Like it's that consistency showing up and the consistency of the depth.
Mm.
Yeah, you had me at Leo moon, girl. I literally was like, are you a Leo? You have Leo in your chart. By the way, everyone, Lori is a Pisces sun,
Mhm.
Aries rising, Leo moon.
Mm.
And she's
Fire and
like, I'm a
water.
Leo moon.
I often like say when people ask me about my like big three and like I tell them, it's basically fire and water. And I always say when I'm angry, I cry. Like I'm an angry crier.
Aw.
I know, but she's cute. We take the good with the bad, It's all good.
Yeah. How has it been for you as an Aries rising with Chiron and Aries and the North Node in Aries?
Oof. There's a lot of struggle internally in my mind, literally because it's obviously my first house of who I'm here to be. And it is as cliche as it is of like, the girl navigating her 20s, trying to figure out who she is. And I don't ever really feel like I'm gonna know, but that's just kind of probably because I'm in the fog of it. But it is a bit like I feel like the world's my oyster type of thing, and I can be so many things and I want to be so many things, but I'm in my head a lot about what is the right one, not the right one. I'll start something, but then don't finish it. So that's very Aries. Or I kind of like, I pivot quite quickly. Like one day I want one thing, the next I want something else. And I think it's really honing in on like kind of touching in on that more pricey side of things and like who am I in here, not just who am I trying to be face value and what everyone else gets to see. It's like who am I in here
Mhm.
that I want to truly shine from within. To me, that's more of the glow within, and the Aries like external is a bit more of like that. It's almost like this more superficial side of things of the way I want to present myself. So there's a bit of that like duality of the front versus the inner that I'm just really kind of like navigating right now.
Yeah, of course. Well, Chiron, the wounded healer's in Aries, and
Mhm.
the North Node of Destiny is in Aries. So there's a lot of wounding coming up and a lot of bold action coming up for everyone. But for you as an Aries rising, what degree is it?
It's 27 degrees, I'm pretty sure.
So the final degrees of any sign, it's like the sign's like gasping for their last, this is my
Yeah.
last call. Let's get it all in.
And
Uh,
my rising is conjunct my Venus. So at 27 degrees, Venus in Aries as well. So it's right on there.
mm,
So a lot of, that softer side of me, the way that I make money, has really come up a lot lately in terms of what I do, like expanding, what bold action do I want to take, in terms of like scaling, building, like, am I ready to do it? So there's a lot of also the fears that really do come up. And now this is going to be like a psychology session. Thank you, Adrian. but but I've actually been having a lot of these conversations with the people around me as well of like, what's the next step? And it feels very foggy of what that is, a lot of limiting beliefs of whether I can actually do it. And, the same old limiting belief thingies that come up that rear their heads every now and then. So I need to lean more into the Aries, like bold and, brazen energy to just kind of like make decisions and go. Otherwise, I'm just like in analysis paralysis.
yeah, well, and that's the South Node in Libra as well.
Yeah, which funnily enough, for me, like my chart, it's the opposite. So my south node's in Aries and my north node's in Libra. So right now, they're the complete
Oh,
opposite. So I'm feeling very like push and pull type of
you're in
energy.
your reverse nodal return.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, so for those listening, that means that the destiny timeline of the collective is in Aries right now, and the karmic purge of the collective is in Libra. However, for Lori specifically in her chart, her destiny timeline is activated through Libra energy, which is peace, justice, harmony, balance, which balance is a charged word, I find.
Mhm.
One-on-one relationship like ours, okay? And then the south node is like Lori's karmic purge point. So south node in Aries is like you were like super selfish in a past life and you got to learn how to like be with other people. So it's like very interesting holding both of those at the same time.
It is. It really is. And one thing that has come up with me a lot in just in recent, months is like, as you know, that I've moved to London coming up to a year actually. And like friendships and building more of those one-on-one connections is something that I really want to focus on, but it's creating the time for that. And I'm really navigating what that looks like because I want to spend more time and really lean into that North Node energy. But also I get stuck in the South Node sometimes of like, I'm good on my own. I can like chill. I can do things. Like I don't need people to feel validated in that regard. But like it's again the limiting beliefs and the everything holding me back from really pursuing connection in this lifetime.
Yeah.
Mm.
And with because it's in your first house, that literally is your vehicle. It's literally the cells of your body. So I would be curious to know if it's not really in your limiting beliefs, but if it's in your body from past lives, from
Yeah.
lived experience this time, from your bloodline. Like it could be your grandma's thing that you're
Oh,
holding in your cells, not in your mind.
for sure. Well, there's that. And I have no doubt that there's a lot of um, restriction in my body in terms of that. But there's actually like I did a past life regression a few years ago, and um, the hypnotherapist she took me into hypnosis, and the way she did it is she kind of gets you to like look at a hallway of all the doors, and she tells you to walk down them and pick one and
Mhm.
enter that lifetime. And I was drawn to the one that was closest to me, where we were at the starting point at that hall. So to me, it was like my most recent life. And I walked in there and I was like, I was a man. I walked into a room, it was a living room, and it was dark. The lights were off, and a little bit of like sunlight coming in from outside. And I was an old man. I was alone, not married, no kids, no friends. And then basically throughout the past life regression, she like takes you to the end of your life. And you're on your deathbed. Who's there? What are they saying? All that kind of stuff. I had no one there. And
Oh,
that was such a wake-up call for me because then cue the tears. I'm like crying in the past life regression. I get out of it. She brings me out, still crying. And I had a lot to process because it felt like that's when my South Node in Aries really clicked for me. Is that I feel that in my most recent past life, I was very much alone. I was sad. I was very depressed. And no one was there to, say their goodbyes to me while I'm literally on my deathbed. And from that moment on, I made a point to take off that invisible ink on my forehead that says, get the fuck away from me, and actually choose to connect with people and, give a shit about my one-on-one connections and, like put more time and effort into the people around me because I don't want to end up like that again. So every time I kind of lean more into my solitude, while that is good for me, I don't want that like long term. Like I can't do that long term because I don't want to end up like that old man who has no one there for him. So yeah.
right.
So that's like a little bit of my Aries South Node, just a little tidbit for you.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Well,
Mm.
and one of my questions that I wanted to ask you as well is like, how does astrology inform your life? And this is how you're,
Yes.
it's like, it's such a validation and that's so powerful. And, people, if you've been listening for a while, know this about my story, but, when I was in a car accident at 16, and I went to the other side, I had so many regrets. I was like, wait, God, like, no, I'm not done. I didn't even do anything yet. And I was literally on the other side and got a chance to come back. But like I made a commitment. I was like, I am leaving it all on the court. I'm going to get to that moment again, and I'm gonna be like, yes, I became the person I came here to be. Um, so like I could just cry right now just hearing that. It's so powerful.
I just want to point in, like chime in and say with your story, I got goosebumps as you were kind of saying that. And what I pictured is, look, in 100 million years, when you do, grace the other side, like all of us, I almost had this vision of you like kind of encountering that same experience. And this time, yeah, it's almost like that fulfillment. I kind of got overwhelmed with fulfillment. And you saying like, oh yeah, I did it. Thank you for giving me that second chance because, and I didn't waste it. Like that, I can just almost like see that encounter in my mind again all those years later. And that feels that feels fulfilling and inspiring. And I think anyone listening is who is feeling scared to do the thing that they want to do and they have visions and big dreams, like I know it's so cliche, but you really only get this life to like really live it fully with these dreams, with this, experience, with this body.
Mm.
So do what you can with it because it's life is so short. Life is just really, really short. And
You
you
don't know
just
when it's going to be over.
exactly. So, I mean, for yourself, saying at 16, you're like, I'm not done yet. I haven't even done anything. Like, you can still be saying that at 28. Like I feel like sometimes I haven't done anything and there's still so much I want to do and see and be. And thank God I want to have like a long, long life to be able to do all those things. But I'm not going to sit here and be in this like victim mentality or act like it's not all available to me because it is if I just make the choices and do it.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the thing. And there's a reason why Nike is so successful. Just do it. Just do it. People underestimate the power of action
And simplicity.
and simplicity. Oh my gosh, literally my episode, one of my recent episodes, I just channeled on, it's called Extreme Simplicity.
Mhm.
Because I was noticing I was making things way, way, way more complicated. Because when it's complicated, we have a excuse to not show up because it's quote unquote hard. But when it's simple, it's very, very clear. It's very, very confronting. It's very, very obvious whether you did it or not. And so, yeah.
It rings true. I think that you make such a good point, and I think it's also the positive reframe as well of like if we can just like take out the weight of a specific action or something that we quote unquote need to do or want to do, kind of reducing the severity of it makes it easier to do in our minds. Like you got to trick yourself into doing these things because otherwise you're never going to feel ready to do the things. So you just kind of have to make yourself ready in any way, shape, or form that you can.
Right. So readiness is a myth. You will never
Mm.
be ready. You can be prepared.
Mm. Hmm.
Being prepared is studying the astrology. It's consistently resetting your nervous system. It's surrounding yourself with the correct people. And, like it's never going to be perfect, but, when someone tries to live without astrology, I just imagine trying to live life never checking the weather app or never having Google Maps. I'm like, literally, how do you do shit? How do you know what you're going to wear? How do you know what to pack? How do you
Mm.
know what the turns are on the way there? It's like, I'm like, that's like actually cray cray.
Look, I think there is, yeah, definitely there's merit in knowing what's going on at any given time. And like you said, it's about being prepared. And I think it just like allows you to navigate certain life situations a little with more ease, with a little bit more ease. Because I think you can kind of see what's coming, you can notice patterns, you can understand what it all means and how that therefore relates to your life. And I think also a lot what I do with astrology as well is like, even if you can't see it preemptively, you can always look back and connect the dots. And then that's where those kind of connections can be made. So I think you're right, like in terms of it's such a great tool to use as guidance. And, like if you ever, I'm self-taught. I didn't study anything. It's everything that I kind of researched online. And, I think it's also very intuitive and you can interpret with yourself as much as you can. But I think it's a good way to navigate some tough situations and again reduce the severity of it. And it's not to say to place a blame on something external or kind of say that that's the reason, but I think also understanding that it can be contributing to the way you feel, like what's going on right now, but not to stop your life completely, but to also just help kind of like it's almost like a cheat sheet of getting through life in an easeful way as much as possible.
Yeah, it provides context.
Yeah. so much.
It doesn't delete free will. It just provides context.
Yes. Mm. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm self-taught as well. I just, when I get obsessed with something, I just go way down the rabbit hole. I think that's me just being a projector. But like anybody will, if it resonates with you, follow your obsession.
Oh, yes. Yes. And as someone like as a Pisces, like I can get obsessed with things really quickly. So that definitely it was a huge obsession of mine over the last, few years or so. But it's really beautiful to get to a point where you kind of like notice things happening in your life and you're like, why is this happening? You just quickly check your chart and you're like, oh, okay, this is the transit. I can understand, okay, it's going to be okay in a couple days or a couple weeks or
Mm.
whatever. And I think you're right. It provides that extra context that's needed for just a little bit more peace and ease. That, you're not kind of wilding out. You're going through a rough patch because there's tension
Right.
in the sky.
Right. Yeah, like what I was sharing with you before we hopped on this call was like I was like, am I depressed? And I was like, no, I'm not depressed. This is just like these parts of my life are being like relentlessly exposed, hit,
Highlighting.
like this is just what the energy is saying right now. So like, how do I show up as a magician, as an alchemist, as the person I came here to be and not bypass my human, but also be in deep touch with like this is the cosmic order right now.
Mm. And I think you touched on something really beautiful. And I want to like segue into that of like what's going on in the sky right now. And, the fact that you were saying like Pluto and Saturn are like, they're loving it up in the sky at the moment. They're having a little dance. Um, that is like neutral energy. But us in our human suits, we have context and we have emotions and all that fun stuff. So that's why we place, added context to it that the planets aren't adding that context. They're just there doing their thing. They're dancing around in the sky having a good
Right.
time. But it's us that, and it's like we choose how we want to feel. We choose how it affects us. We give ourselves 5 minutes of feeling the way that we don't want to feel, and then we try and move on as best as we can because I think we can get stuck. Like, because I'm the exact same. I've been asked myself those same questions, Adrian. Don't worry. It's definitely happening. It's just I think it's not allowing ourselves because I don't think that we are. That's the thing. It's just I think life can get quite hard at times, and I think it's a matter of just seeing it for what it is, recognizing it, acknowledging it, and also seeing if you can move from it. And if it's not going to like bother you in like 10 minutes time, then I think you're good.
Right, right. And then just like allowing, like knowing the tools that work for your human, because the slippery slope is bypassing,
Oh, for sure.
is like bypassing the emotions. So like somebody once described breath work as like they were like, it's a conscious release valve. Like it's
Mm.
a on purpose release valve. And I'm like, yes, it is. And then you decide and you go in and do your release and then you're like, okay, I'm in my power. What am I going to do? Like all of this stuff. um we've danced around this topic, but I want to really transition to taking big leaps and answering the geographical call, because you and I have both been repositioned on
Mhm.
the globe, like, and we were like high-fiving each other throughout the process because last summer you moved to London
Mhm.
and last summer I moved to Maui.
Mhm.
And so I would love to just hear your experience about where you were a year ago and that process from moving from Australia and living with your family to London on your own.
It's been a learning experience, which I knew going into. Like, I'm not naive. I knew it was going to be a whole thing. But I'm also someone who, like, I wouldn't say like I live in delusion, but I love to think life is fun and magical. So I tend to lean into that side of things and not see things
Which
for the
it
harsh.
is.
Yeah, exactly. Because it can be. And reality is like too harsh and scary at times. Like, I don't want to subscribe to that. So, magic's fun. Um, but it's been about 11 months now, just about 11 months, and I'm only finally starting to feel settled. And I think it's come with its own challenges. I've faced a lot of myself throughout of it, of who I was and who I am today are two completely different people. Um, in terms of, uh, I think before I left and did this move, I was scared to probably do things on my own and be the person that I am today. But I think moving really showed me is that I had it within me all along, and I needed the environment for that to be able to be expressed.
Mm,
Um, and moving did that. And whether I moved down the road or whether I moved to the other side of the world, that was going to show me that. And I think when I moved, it was the new moon in Cancer. I believe it was a new moon in Cancer, like the day that I was leaving. And it was also another
mm.
astrological transit. I think the nodes shifted that day as
Note
well.
shifted because I remember we were voice noting back and forth, and I was like, wait,
Yeah.
what day is your flight? What?
Yes.
And
Which
I'm like,
again,
what?
I didn't plan that.
Very
I didn't even plan that. And it happened to be very much about, taking that bold action, a lot to do with my fourth house, which was home. And, kind of moving away from family was a big thing. But I was also moving towards family because I do have a cousin that lives here in London as well. So I was very much lucky that I've chosen a place that I do have home with me, because she is here. And it wasn't like I came here and didn't know anyone. So that was really good. I also moved over with a friend who is still here today. And it's been so great. And it's one of those things that I've just been confronted with a lot more of myself. And I think parts of me that have been dormant, parts of me that I have never met before. And I think that that's really beautiful because I can stand here today and say that the person that I was a year ago isn't the person I am today. And that makes me happy.
Yeah, you made yourself proud.
I did. I can look back at myself back then and give her a little high five for doing the thing. And now I'm here. I feel more settled and I'm really, like you said, proud that I actually made that leap. And it really, like, it still kind of hasn't hit me what I've actually done. But every now and then I'll talk to like some of my other cousins who are back home or, other friends and stuff. And they really kind of highlight, they always say, like, what you did was like big. And to me, yes, it was big, but I never really, I don't think, conceptualized how big of a move it actually was. And I still don't quite grasp how big it actually is. And I don't know whether that's me trying to like reduce the situation so I don't get overwhelmed, or if I just genuinely thought it's something that could be done. Anyone can do it. That's the thing. I'm not doing anything new. I'm not doing anything, you know, crazy. It's just I did the thing and you can too. And that's why it was really great to have someone like yourself going through, you know, this shift of environment and feeling the pull to be somewhere else because not everyone can actually fully understand that kind of pull to be somewhere else. And also like to have other people that are actually going to do it and act on it. Because people say all the time, oh, I want to move here, I want to move there. But no one actually like for a lot of reasons, whether it's financial, whether it's they have a lot more commitments and responsibilities and everything like that. There's reasons why people don't make the move. But if it's on your heart for a reason, it's on your heart for a reason. So it was really, really lovely to have yourself go through that similar experience because it just made me feel like it was also accessible and I wasn't like wild for thinking that this is actually possible and it could, make me happy or, you know, kind of bring new opportunities into my life. And it has. It really, really has.
Yeah, and what you're sharing too is like the importance of the soul friendship we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation because it's like the people you surround yourself with really matter. If everyone's telling you that you're crazy and you can't do it, and they're people that say things and never do them, like that really affects your mindset. That really affects what you do and what you believe in. And
Mhm.
it's a big deal. And yeah, I feel similarly. Sometimes I'm just like living my life, and then every once in a while I'll be like, "Oh, like remember when you lived in Chicago for a decade and then you just like sold everything you owned and moved somewhere you've never been?" It's like it's very bizarre to think about, and people share that reflection with me as well of like, "Oh, that was a big deal." And like even people here, they're like, "Oh, you had never been here?" And I'm like, "Not in this body."
Not in this lifetime, but previous,
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's something as well as like, I don't know if anybody told you this, but they're like, "Oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do it." And it's like, don't wish. You can.
Hmm.
Just do. I mean,
Hmm.
there's obviously a lot of layers of like growth and self-love
Yeah.
and healing that bring people to that point, but it's like, how did you trust it? Because I'm sure there's moments when you doubted it.
Yeah. And I think those moments came up the closer like my leaving date came and approached. But it was one of those things, and it brings me back to the past life regression session that I had as well. And similarly to what you were saying when you were 16, you're like, I haven't lived, I haven't done anything yet. Like I want, there's more I need to do. And I kept coming back to that, that mindset of when is there ever going to be a better time to do this? I
Mhm.
don't have kids. I didn't have a partner at home. I didn't own a home back home. So I was like, just do it. Like I can. And because, Australia is part of the Commonwealth, it's really easy for me to be able to get a visa and travel over here. The process just sounded like it was easily done. And so many people do it. Oh my God, the amount of Australians that are here, incredible. Like it's pretty much like I see and hear more Australian accents than I do British.
Oh,
um,
really?
yeah, it's
Interesting.
quite common, quite common. So there's like a huge like slice of home here. But there were moments that I was doubting it. But again, I don't know whether it's because I live in delusion or if I it just felt like it was not normal, but something that anyone can do. It just reduced the severity of what I was actually doing. So I don't know if I had many oh my God type of moments
Right.
because it just felt right to me and that's what I wanted to do. And honestly, like there was not a lot that could have stopped me. Like who I was a year ago of like, it's just
Mhm.
happening. Like I have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think what also allowed me to like put some ease to the situation was the fact that I could come home whenever I want. Because home will always be there in terms of Australia will always be my home. My family is there. Like my heart and soul is there.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So I know that that will always be there for me no matter what. So I
Mhm.
can gallivant around the world, I can do whatever I want to do, but I know that home will always be around and that's not going anywhere. So I think that kind of also it's like a safety net, a little bit of a safety net that I did enjoy my life back in Australia as well. And it's just a matter of like this is a chapter in my life that I have to experience and nothing's really going to stop me.
I love that you said nothing's going to stop you because that right there is a real decision. A lot
Mm.
of people make fake decisions and they even convince themselves that they made a real decision, but they never actually decided. But the moment you actually fucking decide and you burn the boats and you're like, this is what we're doing,
Mhm.
that's when the universe can rise and meet you. But a lot of people are like, oh, like my I don't have synchronicities in my life. I don't have the magic. I don't have this, and I'm like, the universe doesn't know who you are or what you want because you don't stake your claim in the ground like, hey, this is what we're fucking doing. This is what I stand for. This is who I am. This is what I believe in. Come heaven or hell, which it will be both.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
Mhm. And I resonate with that so deeply. Like you're right, because it's not going to be easy. The whole process, don't get me wrong, I look back and I have fond memories and it was great. Like I wouldn't change anything over the last like 11 months. Absolutely. But it's going to show you a lot. And I think you're right. It's almost like once you make that decision, a lot of things and we talk about manifestation a lot, but it's like a lot of things did fall into place the way it was meant to. And it doesn't always mean that it was what I wanted. It doesn't always mean that it was, anything that I had on my vision board per se, but it was the best for me, the best outcome for me. And I think having that like kind of blind faith and doing a bit of that trust fall with the universe of like, I'm doing this, now catch me. Please catch me. Please help me when I get there to make sure that things fall into place. I'm taking that leap, and a literal leap the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Please catch me and help me, because I'm going to be quote unquote on my own. This is the first time I'm really stepping away from home for a long period of time. And it's something I've never really done before. So, like,
Yeah.
please have my back, basically. And I trust that. And so far, so good.
Well, and it's like it really reveals our relationship with receiving
Mm.
and our relationship with asking for help, because we can do all the shit all day long and we can take all the action steps, but it's like spirit provides, and really trusting that, and that comes with trusting yourself, because you are spirit in human form,
Mhm.
and being in right relationship with spirit. Like, do you only show up and ask spirit for help when you are desperate in need of help, or are you like always like looking at the stars, always in, is it like more of like a way of life? Like, to me, that is important. And you will always be caught when it's a soul desire.
Mm.
The universe will always give you what you need, not really what you want sometimes, but like what you need to become the person, to become the version of you that can hold the vision.
Mm. And I think with all of this happening, it's happening during my Saturn return. So I am going to come out on the other side of this a completely different person because of everything that I'm facing, because it's molding me into the human I am meant to be post Saturn return.
Yeah.
And I'm taking the hits as they come, because I know for the greater good and for my best, highest good and interest, it's meant to be this way. And I've had so many great times here as well. Like that, not to take anything away from it. It's been such a great experience. But I knew when I visited London in 2022 in that summer, after I had come to Chicago to see you, and I went to New York after that, and I came here to London, and I knew on day 2 that I needed to live here. So from that moment, I just kind of knew. And it took me a year to like get my life in order and apply for the visas and stuff to be here. But you're right, like the universe always catches you when it is meant for you. And I felt that on day 2 of being in this city, because it had a magic. It felt like I could see myself here. I could see myself doing day to day. And I think when you can really put yourself in the life of that and of that vision and see it so clearly the way that I did, which I'm sure the same way that you did, we've had these conversations the same way that you did in Maui as well. It's like it has to happen because you can see it so clearly. It's not just like a manifestation that whatever. You actually
Right.
see your future self in that life.
I'm like, it's a knowing. It's
Mm.
fucking prophecy. Like, when you are open to it, and that's a strong word, but you're sitting with two mystics. You're
Mhm.
sitting with a Pisces sun in the 12th house. Like, it doesn't really get more mystical than that. It doesn't really get more psychic than that. Like, Lori shines her light through her psychic knowings and things that can't be seen. And so, what we're talking about in this whole conversation, like, you cannot see the friendship between me and Lori. You cannot see the web that is designed and waiting to support you. You cannot see these things. You feel them and you know them and you trust them. And it's like, it's when you are open to this level of connection with yourself, connection with your soul, connection with others, to the truth, to this way of life that is so unplugged from all the matrix. And it's really a returning to the ancient codes, that like things like intuition are just portals for us to tap into the ancient codes of knowing with spirit when your life truly just like you blow the lid off it. It's it's so powerful. I'm in full body chills now.
The way that you encapsulated that was beautiful. And I think you're so right. It's like you can't see these things. It's that inner knowing. And there's so many situations in my life since moving here where I have just had this innate knowing that certain things are happening because they should be, like great things. And like I'm not worrying about the future because I know where
Mhm.
it's going to end up. I know what's happening and I can see it panning out. So I think like you're right, when it comes back to that inner knowing, like that is the true power, because you don't need to like see it to believe it. That's what it comes back to.
Yeah. So I once heard seeing is believing, or not, seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's beautiful.
it was in the Santa Claus. It was one of the elves was
That's
talking to
right.
Tim
Yeah.
Allen. And
I
he's
thought
like
I'd heard that before. Oh
literally
my gosh.
inside the vision, literally in the North Pole, like as the new Santa. And he's like asking the elf if she believes in this stuff. Like, do you really believe in this stuff? And she's like, I don't know. I'm an elf. Like, but it's so true. And this is the part of me that I just love and come back to. And this again is why these levels of relationships are so important, because if you speak about these things with people who don't get it, who don't believe, they can tap and ignite your doubt like so quickly. Um, but there's like the part of me, this it's the truth, and the inner child is the most powerful part of all of us, because it is before all the bullshit happened. It's the part like you don't believe, you fucking know, which is,
Mm.
belief can be fleeting, knowing is just is. And it's the part of me that I literally believed in Santa till I was like 12. It was like everyone in my class at school was like, it's the parents. And I was like, never.
You like refuse to believe it.
And then I remember asking my mom, I'm like, will you just tell me the truth? Is it the parents? And she was like, yeah, it's been us the whole time. I didn't speak to her for days.
Oh my God.
I was just like, so I was completely crushed.
Oh,
However, you know, spoiler alert for anyone listening.
I think you're good. I think you're good.
But it's that part of you remembering that that is the truth. Like maybe, Santa itself isn't real, but like that magic is real. And that level of abundance, joy, belief, like unshakable knowing, like that is real. So staying tapped into that part of yourself and not allowing the fear and like any doubt around you, because we live in a world where most people don't live like this. Most people are not, like just take one moment to turn on the TV and you'll be like, oh my God. Like, so I think it's important, like relationships like ours are so important for so many reasons. One of them is to protect the sanctity of that truth and not let it get tampered with.
Mm. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of external influence that could really tarnish that. I think that inner sovereignty, I would like to call it, of like coming back to that inner self.
Mhm.
And that external noise is not always welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a great conversation.
As it
I'm
always is with
excited
us.
to share this. Thank you for being here.
So welcome. Thank you for having me. This has been such a treat. As always, is like talking to you. I'm just glad we get to share it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the world gets a window into our little channel here.
Mhm.
So
Beautiful.
the last question I like to ask everybody, which by the way, it's 11:11 as I'm asking this.
Love.
Um, this is called A Better World with Adrian. What is your definition of a better world?
Ooh, better world. I think a better world is where everyone has the freedom and the accessibility and the ability to live and breathe and do whatever they want to do. They can be whoever they want to be, and not be defined by anything other than just who they are. I think that's what a better world for me would be, is so everyone individually can be safe, can be fed, can be I think in a world where everyone kind of wins. That is what I want to see. And I understand there's duality. I understand there's, light and dark. I'm not trying to bypass the fact that there is shadow, but I want to see people win. That's naturally who I am as a person. It's why I do the work that I do. So I'm here to support others, and seeing other people win is where I feel like we're having a better world.
Yeah, I love that because we can all win.
We can, and that's the thing, is enough to go around. Like
There's
everyone can
more than
win.
enough. There's way
Exactly.
more
So
than enough.
I think everyone winning is, yeah, I think that's, and doing whatever they want to do and being accepted for who they are. And like I think when you get at it from an individual level, then collectively everything's better. You've got to start at the micro for the macro to really have an effect.
Right, right.
Mm.
Thank you so much for that.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, how can people connect with you if they want to connect with you, work with you?
I mean, probably the best way would be Instagram, just at Lori Madeline, and that can be in the show notes so you can get the spelling of it. I spell it differently.
Totally. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for this co-creation, and to all of you out there listening, go make it a great day. Don't forget that you are amazing, unique, rare, wonderful, literally one of a kind, and your gifts matter, and only you can share them in your unique way. Go make a stranger smile because that's what we do. It charges the whole field. You have no idea the impact that can make. Be the change, be the light, and I will see you next time on A Better World with Adrian.